So we're going to start off by looking at the very basic form of using a creator card. So we're going to do this card here. Now, creator cards, the whole idea is that they don't have an outside cutting edge. So as you can see on the inside here, this die, we've placed it into the front of this card, and we could do any size card with that idea. Place the die in. It doesn't cut something out for you to stick on your card. It cuts into the front of the card. So all will become clear when I show you. So we started off, I'm using one of the cards from the kit. So this is one of your basic 6x6 inch cards. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that die and place it right in the very, very centre here. Now, just to make sure I've got it lined up exactly in the centre, one thing I've actually done is cut a matten layer all ready to go around the outside of it. So this is just for me helping to lay that up in the centre. Very important to get it in the centre for this particular type of card, just because you don't want your card to look a little bit skew-whiff and wonky. So if I get that exactly where I want it to sit, and then what I am going to do is take this, I'm going to hold it in place with a little bit of double low tack tape, this is. So bear in mind, it's not going to cut around the outside, but it is going to cut around everything on the inside. Now, when you're doing your cutting, all of these dies will work in either our Gemini or our Gemini Junior. All right. Now, I don't want it to cut through two layers, so I'm going to open it up and I'm going to place it face down into the cutting mat. So it's going through my cardstock and into the base clear cutting plate. Then the sandwich that I want is, you want your clear cutting plate on top of it. You want your magnetic plate on top of that. And then you want your other cutting plate. Now, if you find it doesn't quite cut first time through, you can always go and add the magnetic shim, the metal shim in there as well. So I'm going to send this through my Gemini. And I'm actually going to pause and reverse it just to save me getting up and going round. And that gives it the benefit of giving two cuts through there the first time. Now, every one of these dies is a cut and an embossed die. So if we look there, if I lift off that top plate, you can see that is cut out beautifully. And I'm going to just lift a few of those cut pieces out there, right? Doesn't matter if we don't get them all out. So it's cut. Now, if we want to emboss, notice I turned the sandwich over, lifted the top plate off. I'm going to add in the embossing mat. So then I just make that sandwich back up as it was, turning and rotating the plates. And the one rule is, if you've got one black mat in, don't have the other one in. So if we've added the embossing mat, we're going to take out the magnetic. And now we can send it through another time and emboss it. Right, so that's now been cut and embossed. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to lift this up, but I'm going to leave the die in place. So it's actually a lot of the excess little pieces have fallen out. I'm going to leave that in place, and all of the dies are cut, emboss and stencil. So when it comes to stenciling, what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of ink through the stencil here, and it will pick up on the areas where we've got a little bit of the card showing through. So just using one of the Harmony ink pads here, and this is actually Oasis, this one here. And how you use these is, use one of your daubers. It doesn't have to be our dauber, any sort of sponge applicator. And we're going to pick the ink up onto the applicator and then just go through the die like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and right off the edge, because it doesn't matter about this, it's actually going to get covered over with that lovely, you saw I had the cardstock to go over it. So I'll go all the way around. I'll do the little pieces where I've got my tape afterwards, because I will need to move the tape, but we want to make sure that we won't move the die, because otherwise we'll get ink through in the area where we don't want it. So you see, when I get round to here, I can just remove that tape off there. Make sure we ink right through that corner. And then the same on this one up here. Remove the tape, and then plenty of ink through the corner. Okay, so the trick is just make sure it's even all the way around. So once we've got our ink on, I'll go to one side. The die literally will just lift off, and of course all those extra little pieces you want to take through, that is what we're left with. So you're left with the beautiful die cut, the embossed detail, and then the inking. Now I'm going to cover up that little bit of working. This piece of cardstock, that I put on here. This is actually from the paper selection that comes in here. So if I flick through my box and just get right to the bottom, and we'll take these papers out, I'll show you the papers that we have in the set. And I just chose a nice ink really to match the papers. So these are the papers that we've got in this set. So we've done some beautiful butterfly designs, and we've done them in a nice kind of summery colour palette here to go with it. Okay, so I've just taken one of those designs, pop all this away, keeping my box nice and organised there. And I'm just going to stick that down. Now I'm just using a tape pen. You can use any sort of adhesive. I use the tape pens just for ease and simplicity. And all I did was pre-cut this to the right size. What you're interested in seeing really is the die cutting bit, not me cutting mats and layers squares of cardstock. So it's just going to go on the front there like this. And that is the basic kind of formulation of how the creator cards work. Now what I am going to do is, we've got some other bits in the pack. So just to show you what we've got a stamp set. And this is the stamp set here. And it's just a lot of beautiful sentiment stamps to help you finish off the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Especially For You, and I'll pop it onto one of my rocker blocks. Ideally you should always try and use the smallest rocker block that you've got in your collection. As it is, I've got quite a big rocker block here, but notice I positioned it right across the centre. That's if you're using the rocker blocks. If you're using just a regular acrylic block, just whatever normally works for you. And I'm going to use just a regular black ink pad. So this, I've actually got the Finesse alcohol proof die, and I haven't gone for the black, I've gone for slightly off black. So this is your Flagstone one, but I'm using here an alcohol proof. I'm using like a permanent ink pad. So plenty of ink on, and I'm just going to stamp that in the centre here, and you can see those stamps really do stamp beautifully well. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to position that in the middle of the card. So again, a little bit of tape on there, just making sure that's lined up in the middle, and it just gives us a little bit something going on inside, so you can see through there and you can see the Especially For You. And then what I have done, just to finish it off, remember you've got lots of little accessory pieces in your box, and these are the pieces that are going to help you finish the story. So if you look through the paper pad, there's a beautiful paper in here, lovely big floral one, and I've actually just taken it, instead of using that as a background paper because I think it's lovely, just cut out a lot of the florals to use. So I've got the florals to use there. You've got some ribbons, we've got some gems and pearls in here, and they're all just to help you finish off that card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shape these a little bit and position this over the bottom corner. And again, I'm just using the tape pen for speed. When you're doing this at home, you might want to use some 3D foam pads in here. I've just tied a little piece of ribbon which will go in the top there. And then I have cut out again a couple of little accessory pieces, so I've got a couple of the little butterflies from that collection, and then I've just stuck some little pearls on the inside there, so those butterflies are just going to lift up. And it just, because you've got something a little bit unusual going on with the design itself, you know, with the creator card being built in, you don't need to do an awful lot to the card to make it look really spectacular. That's a lot of the idea behind a lot of the Crafter's Companion dies. It's the die does the hard work, so you can have the enjoyment of just creating the finished card. So that is Creator Card in its most basic form, but what I will do is show you how to do a couple of other exciting things with it.